What's up, everybody? Toy Addict 26 here, back again with an all-new Toy Addicts Anonymous Live. I'm here joined by my co-host, the Badass Reviews, Carlos. What's up, buddy? And tonight, guys, we're on fire, but you're gonna need some ice to cool it down. We got a very special guest.
Let's cheer.
Let's make a special toast for our special guest. We have Sara Frazetta.
Hi guys, thanks for having me. Fire and ice. I like that opening. That was good.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. We're a bunch of toy nerds, but we're older guys, and we grew up with your dad's art, and all I could say is pretty much his work is transcended through the years, and it's something that is just to this day people just. I just had a friend bought one of the books, the Frazetta books, and he's like, I'm gonna open and I'm gonna turn the pages with gloves on. That's how much we have in high regard to that art and any product that comes out with a Frazetta name on it. And we're super excited about the announcement of the Dark Wolf figure, because this is a figure that people have been wanting for years. I picked up my copy of Fire and Ice this weekend at the comic book store, and it's just awesome to revisit things. We've been watching the movie again. I believe I streamed it on Amazon, and just kind of revisit, because there's certain things that just fade away with memory. But the Dark Wolf character was very iconic. The animation style, the Ralph Bakshi productions from back then, it transcends time, and of course, the Frazetta name and the Frazetta style of art is just something that's amazing. So, talk to me. What is it timing wise? You guys announced this Dark Wolf figure a little bit after Comic-Con. Was there a particular reason why that wasn't like a big announcement at the show? You couldn't make it out to the show or something like that?
So it's because we're amateurs. The honest answer. We're learning as we go. And I appreciate, like you said, the fandom of Frazetta is just really incredible. Fans that are so loyal, like you guys, who have been following this since you were in your teenage years, and our biggest reason of why we do anything is because of you guys asking for things. And for years we've heard, please make a Dark Wolf action figure. And we had been in some discussions with some bigger companies. I think a lot of it's to do with COVID and a lot of the factory problems they're having, a lot of layoffs, and people just aren't able to take on as much production. And that was very unfortunate, because some of the companies had such big successes with Frazetta action figures that had been made. But we're crazy people at Frazetta Girls, and we say, okay, well, if they can't do it, we're going to figure it out ourselves. So my partner, Joe, he's he's a manufacturing wizard. He really is the one who got Frazetta Girls into our own merchandising and expanded our web shop. And we partnered with Eamon O'Donoghue, who has worked with Marvel and Mezco, and he did the Conan action figure. And we said, let's make an action figure together. There he is. That action figure, when I had never really played with action figures before. I was a Barbie girl, as I told you guys before we got on here. But the action figures are really freaking cool. And I think that Conan, when I started playing with him and dressing him up, and there's Death Dealer. And Eamon did both of those for Mezco. Great job. Mezco's an amazing company. So totally inspired by what Mezco does, NECA, Super 7. And when we finally got our hands on those guys, on the Conans, I was like, oh man, these are cool. Now I understand why you guys are please, please, for the love of God, make some action figures with all of Fire and Ice. I'll announce it here, but Tigra is next. And Tigra is something that Eamon and Joey have been really laboring over, because she's got to be hot. She's Tigra, she's a Frazetta girl, and yes, she's got
super hot.
Super hot, and the proportions and going over that, I asked Joey, I said, are you going to leave me for this Tigra? You're getting a little too into her design. So, but it's not yet. The AI is not advanced enough yet. But so we're going to really expand this line, and it's really just because of the outcry of what Frazetta fans want. And that's really, you mentioned the book earlier, and I appreciate your friend taking the white gloves and going through it, because it's like, this monograph, this 11-pound book of 400 and something pages, 68 pages. And it's just like, it's really an incredible work of art what Tashin put together. And that book took, I mean, God, we were working on that since 2017. So it's just, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money. With Frazetta Girls, we're completely like self-funding. We don't want to get into unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that tenacity. They have to pay staff, but we're like we have a very small team, and we just are very proud of the way that we're organically growing. And with the pre-orders, for instance, we take the money up front. Why? Because we're a small company, and we need that to manufacture this thing. So that's the way that we're growing as a company, and as the more successful we get, the more really cool things we're going to be able to produce.
That's awesome.
Well, like, talking about that, congratulations in the award you got in San Diego.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well deserved. Well deserved. And yeah, talking about actually the action figures, Savage Crucible, the shirt that I have right here, they making the chain and ball warrior.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
People like this new line of action figures. I know the people who are behind that, and they're like super talented, super amazing people. We have actually William, the owner of the company, here on the show before.
Cool.
And one of the I can tell you right now, one of the things that got everybody most excited during the campaign, that Kickstarter, was when he shows up that design. And Jorge was one of the ones that, dude, I'm in. Like, as soon as he saw the
Frazetta. Yeah. And that's a really cool character that they chose, because Warrior Ball and Chain, that's just one of the it's like an underrated Frazetta painting, but it's very well known. When people see it, they're like, oh, that's one of his best works. So to see that come to life, I mean, there can be many action figures, and it's great. Like, we support everyone that's doing that. They're working with the other part of the family that runs a Frazetta business, the museum up in Pennsylvania. And like I said, we're really trying to do everything ourselves. Not to say that we won't work with other companies in collaboration again, but we really want to make everything in-house. And with the Dark Wolf, that was what we had shown, and I see 1/6 shooter Trevor's on here. So Trevor did such an amazing job, because Trevor was shooting Dark Wolf, and it's just a prototype. So the articulation's not done. We did get the articulation video, which Trevor, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but Eamon, Joe, and I were all just drooling over it. The articulation is beautiful. It's what we hoped for. So we're going to get that painted up, and then have a video taken, and then share that with everyone. Just so, I mean, with the support with just the prototype so far has been mind blowing. I'm like, oh my God, there really is a demand. But then I think when people see the articulation, see how those elbows are moving, the hips are moving, they'll be really even more supportive over this figure, and know that we know what we're doing after months and months and months of working on this.
Yeah, as toy collectors, we nitpick, because I mean,
yeah, oh yeah, you should.
You can see behind me is just a plethora of action figures, and
yeah,
I collect based on nostalgia. So things that I remember from my childhood, from better times, that's what I like to collect.
Yeah.
And when it comes to something like this that's so sought after, and people have been demanding, when we first saw pictures, like, oh, it looks awesome, but everybody's like, wait a minute, but how much
doesn't move?
And
Dark Wolf has to move. We're very we're acutely aware of that. But of course, I understand the community and seeing the pictures and going, but it's because of Trevor made him look so damn good in the pictures with the move. I don't even know how he did that. We were like, how did Trevor do this? But he's just does such good work. And that's like it's our first thing. This is when we get Tigra going and the rest of the line, we'll definitely make sure to show it first articulated, but it's just part of the growing pains and getting through things. And, there's going to be some things that pop up of like, why did they make this decision? And most of the times it's just, because we're learning and we have to hear from the community, and you guys tell us what's up. And then we say, oh, okay, we'll do it this way. Thank you. So we appreciate feedback and qualms and excitement. We want to hear it all.
Yeah, no, I was talking actually with Iman on Instagram, and I was asking him some questions that the fans, as soon I post the picture that Trevor took on my Instagram, everybody start asking me like, dude, what's going on with this? Tell me about this, tell me about that, because I'm a fan of toy photography. I'm not at the level of Trevor, because Trevor is like planets away from me. But I enjoy taking pictures of my action figures and stuff. And some people were asking about the articulation and everything. So I talked to Iman about a little bit about the articulation, because I was asking, okay, so there's 32 points of articulation. I just want to know, like, how's the distribution of those points of articulation? And he was explaining to me, like the Conan, for example, you have like a single joint here on the elbow, but it swivels also. And the Mezco Conan has a lot of range on that elbow.
Yep.
So yeah, that's one of the things that people were like kind of like asking me. I asked him, and now I can tell like some people. Anyways, we're going to PowerCon.
You guys are going to PowerCon?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're gonna see Eamon then and Dark Wolf. That's perfect.
Yeah. So we're gonna be there. We're gonna talk to him. We're gonna take pictures. We're gonna do some like videos live for everybody to be aware of what's going on, and I know people are like waiting for that.
Oh my gosh! Like I said, the support with just the prototype picture. I mean, it's a little overwhelming. I'm like, oh my God, this is all right. I think we're gonna have to find some people to work, if that's even a thing anymore. Hopefully, but it's really. I mean, we knew that. Books were huge requests. Like we had been being asked for a real coffee table book for over a decade now. How long I've been in this business, and it was just a lot of fighting to get it done, and it happened. And then other things I'm very aware of. Everyone wants the animations and documentaries and just all kinds of media with Frazetta, and that's just something we're going to keep expanding. But like I said, it takes time. But the action figures, this is definitely. I mean, when Joey saw the articulation today, he was like, "All right, I feel a little less stressed now. Okay, I can sleep better tonight," because it is. It's really when you have so many people that are putting their faith in you, and you better produce a good product. Like it's a lot of pressure, but it's fun. What else would we be doing if we weren't doing this?
Yeah.
Oh, Trevor. Thank you, Trevor.
What he said?
He said he got his passion book today.
Yeah. He's the one that was saying he was gonna treat it with gloves.
Yeah, with gloves. Yeah,
I believe that. Then he's a perfectionist. Look at his pictures.
Yeah, so,
now I'm like putting my oil all over the book. That's terrible. I'm sloppy like my grandpa.
So talking a little bit about the Fire and Ice, the comic book.
Yeah.
Comic. I was actually refreshing my memory. Like Jorge told you, I was watching Fire and Ice again because I don't know how many years.
Oh, we lost him.
Oh no! Maybe I just jinxed him. Oh, here he goes. Okay, I said my phone died before, and then that happens.
So yeah, I was watching the movie, and pretty much what it is, this comic book is like an expansion of what the movie offers to us, pretty much, right? That's
yes.
Kind of like the idea.
It's going, so what it is it's going back in time just a little bit, about 2 years back in time before the war is happening and Necron's and coming in with his subhumans and kidnapping Tigra and just wrecking havoc on everything. So it goes back into a little bit of backstories, but not too much. We didn't want to do an origin story, but we wanted to do a really great prequel series to answer some of the questions that fans have been asking for a long time. Now, it's a great story. There's not really like that concrete of a plot. There's a lot of like, hey, like why are these things happening? Is it just because it's a Frazetta movie and there's just hot girls running around with bikinis? So there were. I mean, me personally, I always appreciated the movie for just how beautiful it was with my grandfather's influence of art, Bakshi's animation, and then like the backgrounds by James Gurney, the music by William Kraft. I didn't really need like a crazy story to love the movie. I just liked it for what it was, which was very visually beautiful. But as a fan, I did want to see a little bit more development of like, why is Tigra the daughter of King Jarl? Where did she come from? Who is her mom? What's with the witch Roleel? So when we were coming up with this series with Dynamite, we just were very concerned that we wouldn't find a writer who was good enough to world build. And we came up with some names, and they were solid writers who had created amazing stories, and then, you know, their schedules didn't work out, or and then we went to some other names that were just kind of like, you know, big very known writers at the time. And I don't like to do that, because I don't think we should ever move off of like hype or anything like that. I mean, not to take away from the artistry of those people, but I want it to be like a very intuitive match, like a spiritual match. So we just were having basically a hell of a time finding a writer, where I was like, oh my God, this isn't going to happen. We're not going to find someone who wants to either do this job or just someone who can do this job. And I asked my partner, Joe, who I mentioned a lot, because Joe's like the backbone of this company. I said, Joe, I go, you know, Matt over at Dynamite, I said, we've been searching for, God, a month now. We're running out of time. Like, we really need to find a writer. So I asked Joe to kind of just like use his intuition to find someone, because he's very good at that. He has like a hunch to things. Like, he can read people really quickly. So he found Bill Willingham. I had never read the Fable series from DC before. Joe went over some of the issues that were available online, and then he saw some reviews. But mostly he just said, I think he's the one. I don't know why, I just think he's the one. So what I did, instead of reading it, I went online and I just started watching interviews of Bill. And right away I said, he's the one. He's the one, because you know why? My grandfather would have really liked Bill. And I wanted it to be a writer who really understood what Frazetta wanted. With Death Dealer and the other series, my grandpa didn't really have a vision of what those were going to be. He kind of just said, you know, which is why we're a little lax with Death Dealer, where Death Dealer is going to have probably a lot of stories over the years. But my grandpa was very set on who Dark Wolf was and how Fire and Ice needed to be. And he had a lot of interviews. We had a lot of one-on-one time talking about his expectations for Fire and Ice and what a follow-up would look like and where it went wrong. And so I had so much content that I had from over the years, where I'm like, I can't get this wrong. I cannot get this series wrong. This has to be exactly what my grandpa wanted. So Bill was on board, and then it was, you know, having to find Leonardo Manco, an artist that could do his own style but do justice to Frazetta with the rawness and the details. And I told Leonardo Manco, I'll try to keep this short, but it's just like such an incredible thing how everything aligned. Leonardo Manco had actually done a few pages for our Death Dealer series with Opus. And yes, there it is. So
Yes.
so he did some pages, and we didn't know who the artist was that did, because Stefano he left for a little bit and he was the main artist. So we needed some fill-ins already on issue 4, and it was, you know, a big mess. But so Denton, who was the editor at the time at Opus, he found Leonardo Manco. I think Leonardo was working on Judge Dredd at the time, and he did some pages. And I looked at the artwork, and I was like, my God, who's this guy? I was like, I've never heard of him before. Leonardo Manco, like, he's incredible. But so I'll go back a little bit. When I saw the first pages, I was under the impression it was a different artist, because there were 2 artists that came in on that issue. So I contacted the wrong artist and I said, I want to get you on the Fire and Ice series. Leonardo Manco emailed me like a week later, and Leonardo Manco goes, "Hey Sarah," he goes, "I just want to say to you, thank you for like this opportunity with Death Dealer. But I just want to know, like, why you guys aren't giving any credit on social media for my pages? I see you're posting them a lot, but I'm not named as the artist." And I said, "Wait, this is your art?" I was like, "I thought it was the other artist." And I was like, "Oh no." So I call Matt, and I'm like, "Matt, we have to, unfortunately, we have to let we'll use the other artist at a time," which it worked out. Now he's on the Death Dealer series. But I said, "We need to get Leonardo Manco." So it was like that full circle moment where it was like, okay, everything is lining up as it should. But this wouldn't have been like, I am in love with this series. I am in love with it. I think it's beautiful. And every time a script came in from Bill, I was crying. I was jumping up and down saying my grandpa would freaking love this. And that was the biggest like testament, was like, if I know in my heart my grandpa would really like it, we did a great job. And I hope fans feel the same way. But at the end of the day, it's like it needed the Frazetta approval. And in a spiritual way, I know my grandpa would be very proud of what we brought together.
That's really awesome. And I think, speaking of grandpas, my grandparents, a lot of people had this kind of situation where your grandparents essentially were kind of like your parents. They kind of stepped
Yeah.
into that role
Me.
and did what a parent should do.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, my grandparents passed in the early 90s, but they were very influential, the person that I am today. So I want to know, with you having such an iconic artist as a grandpa, how was that childhood like? Like, would you, because usually grandpa reads you stories, grandpa takes you to the park, plays ball with you. Like, would you go into his studio, sit on his lap while he was painting? Like, talk to us about those experiences.
So my grandpa was a normal grandpa. He would take me on little journeys in nature. We lived on a 70-acre estate, and he wanted to be in nature because he was sick of like living in the city life of Brooklyn. He was sick of neighbors, so he wanted to go out and enjoy the wildlife and the moss. And he really took the time to be present. So when we would like go out with I had this little wagon, this little red wagon. I was the first grandchild of 11, but we would take this little wagon out. And do you guys hear an echo?
Yes.
It's a bit of an echo, yeah.
Hold on.
I'm not sure where it's coming from. I hear like little static. That's what I hear.
No. It was echo.
Let me see. Do you guys hear it now?
No.
Okay. I had to put on echo cancellation. Okay. So we would take out my little wagon and we would go and just spend hours out in nature. He loved photography. So I was the first of 11 grandchildren. My grandparents like basically begged my mom, speaking of like, just like your grandparents, my mom was 24 when she had me. So she was young. Like now I'm 10 years older than that. And I'm like, I still can't imagine having a child at 24. That's ridiculous. So my mom, she was trying to get in shape and work out and do her things. And my grandparents, they were bored. They were at the stage of their lives where they're like, we need a kid. We need something. We're sick of each other. We need something to like stimulate us now and make us happy. So I was that person that came to them. And we would just spend hours outside. My grandpa taking pictures of me. He would just listen to me. I had like the same voice, but it was more like this. So he just thought it was so cute and would just listen to me ramble and ramble and ramble. And he loved it. Like he was my biggest fan as a kid. So it was great. So he never had this this famous, I didn't know he was famous. I didn't even know how much of an influence he made on the world until after he passed away. I mean, that's how much of like a separation there was. My grandma was a really good gatekeeper too. It's like she obviously wanted us to see my grandfather's artwork and be in the museum among fans, but she never really told us like, again, how influential it was. And I think that's because she wanted us all to have like a normal childhood and see grandpa as grandpa. I mean, right. I do think back and I say, God, if I would have known, I would have been filming him. Like I had no idea. I knew that he was really cool and that he made a movie, Fire and Ice, that I watched at 5 years old. He showed us his documentary like many times after it was made. But he just, and I think, he was at a point in his life where his health wasn't the best either. And so he kind of, because my mom has a much different memory than I do. Like she remembers, he was still very present as a father, but like all night he would be painting, and they can remember those moments. But he was very healthy then. But when I was old enough to remember him, he was using his left hand at the time, and it was just different. It was he was in a different stage. He was in a reflective stage of his life.
Right. Yeah, no, but it's still, yeah, it's crazy how they did the gatekeeping, and you didn't know how much of an iconic artist you had as a grandpa, and
Well,
now
I mean, yeah, I was watching like Titanic. I think I was like in fourth grade, and I'm like, James Cameron is a genius. If I could ever meet him, and which is still true. And I was like, I loved everything about it, and I had no idea. I saw in his book, The Art of Tech Noir. James Cameron was totally influenced by my grandfather. Like he had Neanderthals, he was copying it, and Conan Manape. And I mean, if I would have known that then, I would have been bowing to my grandfather. But I had no idea. No, I don't think any of us did. Clueless.
No, but that's even greater and better from him, from the relationship between you and your grandpa. I think that's the best family wise. Like
Yeah,
I'm a number one fan of my family, and that's one of the my drive in life is my family. It's my wife and my daughter.
beautiful.
That's it. And my grandpa and my grandma, I grew up with them pretty much uh, till they raised me till I was like 19 years old.
Wow,
So pretty much, and everything I know, the way I am right now is because of them. To the point that I have the tattoo of my grandpa, my grandma in my back, like the name of them. And
beautiful.
so that's pretty much, and the relationship you say, and the strong character you say you have also is a reflection pretty much of all of that, like not just your parents, but also your whole family, your grandpa and everything, like that's beautiful, that's amazing.
yeah, it's all
Absolutely.
you
And
have.
that generation was real cool. They worked their asses off, and they went through the wars and everything else. So they didn't have time to be super like analytical or they were like living. They were really living and working and having to just prove themselves in every sense of the way. And I think I'm always told, and I don't take it personal anymore in like terms of like vanity and looks, but people always assume I'm much older than I am. And I'm like, I just got raised by your grandparents, and then you're gonna always be an old soul. I didn't
Hey,
know how to like talk to my peers. I'm like, grandma and grandpa, those are my peers.
exactly. I mean, back in the days you didn't have time to get offended by everything now, right?
Oh God, my grandpa would have been doing the biggest eye rolls now. I'm like, oh boy, oh if he was here, he'd be like, he'd still whistle. Like I kind of like I'm not upset about it, but a little bit. Like I feel like now, I mean, I remember like 10 years ago, men would be like, oh, you're very beautiful, or like whistle or something. Now you guys will like feel like you'll get arrested if you do that, and I'm like,
Oh yeah, you
it's
whistle to a
crazy.
girl, you whistle to a
It
girl, you're in problem.
I mean, I'm a girl, and I'm like, why don't we get whistled at anymore? That was kind of nice. But my grandpa, to say all that, my grandpa definitely would have been whistling. He'd be like, huh, you gotta tell me not to whistle. Shut up. No one told him what to do. I mean, there were some things that he was doing even in 2010 where we're like, Grandpa, you can't say that anymore. And he's like, says who? He's like, don't tell me what I can say. And I'm like, all right, noted. Sorry.
Listen, I have a martial arts school. I teach martial arts, and
Oh,
and
cool.
some of my students tell me like, "Oh, professor, you shouldn't say this to the new students or whatever." I was like, "Dude, I've been like that for around 20 something years of teaching. I'm not gonna change now. Just
No,
to let you know."
no. No, I feel you as I'm getting into I'm in my mid 30s now, and I talk to high schoolers and just try to understand their mindsets, and I'm like, man, I'm feeling old. I don't understand this. I'm not hip. I'm sorry if I say something
You don't
offensive. I
fit.
don't mean to.
So I wanted to ask you, Sarah, because Mike Brand was asking. He says at one point, and I saw it online, Robert Rodriguez was planning on doing a live action Fire and Ice. Um, any idea what
Yeah.
happened with that?
Any
What?
updates? He said.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was that would have sorry, there goes my headphone. That would have been cool, right? We got with Robert. We partnered with Robert. That was like kind of the origins of Frazetta Girls when he announced with Fire and Ice, and he was touring a lot of the original art, and it was really cool. And he had some production art by Justin Sweet. Sony Productions gave him the green light, and they were going. And then unfortunately, it came down to one of my family members saying no, and kind of blocked the whole thing from happening. And it's just part of the process of an estate being divided and learning what in reality can you really block, and realizing that lawsuits are just part of the game of business, and you gotta just take them. And so all of that to say that don't give up hope with Rodriguez and Fire and Ice, because Rodriguez and with any or a Frazetta project, I'll just say, because Rodriguez is just such a fan, and he does. I love Rodriguez's work. I don't know if like there would be a budget for a live action now, but I'm really hoping that we can get something like animated, something going. And but yeah. So that's what happened with Fire and Ice. It's just internal issues, and we're working through it. We're working through those internal issues to keep making the fans happy, because that's what's important.
Fingers and toes crossed.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I have a friend that asked me because he knew about the art, but he never saw the movie, right? And he was like, "Oh, so what's the movie about? Like, what is it?" And I was like, "Picture this, dude. I'm gonna tell you this. It's Apocalypto meeting Conan the Barbarian, pretty much that." And
That's great.
he's like, "Okay, I got it, I got it." And I was
Yeah,
like, and he's like, "I'm gonna watch it now." I was like, "Okay, go ahead." Because
yeah.
it's what I was talking to Jorge. I was like, listen, what I love about Fire and Ice, it was like not just the animation, because the animation is amazing and I love it.
Beautiful.
The fluid
Because
motion.
they did this thing, and one of my friends was telling me, actually, one of my best friends, Pablo, he was telling me today how they filmed the movie, and he said like, well, they were using pretty much what Masters of the Universe back in the days filmation was using. It was like real people, and then the
Hmm.
artists were like doing everything on top of the movement. So the movement looks so natural. It doesn't look like Japanese animation or G.I. Joe, like nothing like that. It's totally
Yep.
different. It's
Very
totally,
fluid.
Absolutely.
yeah.
It was such an intense process for all of them. I mean, the rotoscoping, that's what it's, rotoscope animation. And yeah, they went over budget, way over budget. And they spent a lot of time on it. The head of animation, Steve Gordon, he's one of my friends, great artist. He just said it was insane the amount of work that they had to do to get that movie made. But I really like your reference of Apocalypto. Apocalypto is one of my favorite movies
Oh,
ever,
really?
hands ever, like top. That's like the goal where I'm like, okay, Apocalypto. That's where we would need to be in a live action. Like
That's
that's what
awesome.
we would that movie. It's like that movie. It's like hard for when I love movies so much. They're hard for me to watch because they make me so emotional, and they're like I can't even like watch my favorite movies over and over again because it's too much. And like I can like think every scene of Apocalypto right now in my head because it was just so freaking well done.
Yeah.
Straight to the point. I love the type of movie that is like that. It's like
Yeah,
raw, straight
yeah,
to the point. You don't, and that's what I love about Fire and Ice. Yeah,
yeah.
most people, like you said, you need to with the comic book now. We're giving context to the people so they can understand a little bit better. But when I was watching the movie, now that I'm older,
Hmm.
right now that I'm older and I understand a little bit more, I was seeing through the the my TV, the conflict on Necron, his
Yeah. Oh,
internal conflict,
yeah.
even in his body language, how he was moving, how he was sitting. No, he doesn't even need to talk, but just the way he act with his movement was so intense.
Yes, body language is
And
amazing.
and I was like,
Yes.
wow.
So that
Yeah,
was and that was played by Sean Hannon. He did so freaking good. But yeah, Necron, when he's so creepy when he refuses Tigra.
oh
That's a
yeah,
lot of that. You know, you're like, hmm, okay, this guy's got a lot of problems.
yeah,
But he's such a great villain because you really do hate him. You're like, ew, this guy is so disgusting. He's representative of like everyone's like worst nemesis that they just can't stand. They're like, what is wrong with this person? And that's Necron. And he's like, I mean, to be able to now like expand on him and go back, like now he has a brother, and we
and
see what he
brother,
does to his
yeah.
we see what he does to his brother in issue 1, and he gets even more sinister. And you're like, I didn't think I could hate him more. Now I do. Unbelievable. But yeah, I'm with you. I like sometimes I just like a simple movie. You don't need to have it so complex. It just can be what it is, and just have great action scenes, great and Fire and Ice with the Dragon Hawks and Dark Wolf and the fight at the end. I mean, it's just incredible. Like the act and I think a lot of that too is like my grandfather was really involved with that. He said he would get on set and he would just kind of show the actors like how to walk and how to move. And he said he was even doing like a little wiggle for Tigra to show her how to be feminine, because he knew what he wanted. And he goes, I want her to be like sexy with a little sway of the hips, and I need to show Cynthia Leak how to move. So it was like everything. My grandpa was so involved because my grandpa loved films, and I think he would have made more films if he had the opportunity. But like when he got back after filming Fire and Ice, that's when he started having problems with his thyroid, and he was just like a mess for 8 years. And then he finally got that figured out, had a stroke, and then it was just downhill from there. So he said a couple times like he would never do the animation again, the rotoscoping animation, because it was so labor intensive. But he did want to film, even though I think it would be as labor intensive. He just didn't know. You don't know until you know. But he wanted to film live action. He wanted to go and just make like really cool like wildlife movies, like kind of like The Revenant. I don't know if you guys saw that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that like I think that stylistically, like that's what my grandpa would have been like dreaming to make, something like that, because that movie is like another masterpiece. I can't even watch that movie either, though. The bear scene and everything. I'm like, oh my god, this is too much. I can't take it.
Till today when I was watching the movie, I noticed at the end, the last scene where Darkwolf was there, it was pretty much the same style as the death dealer in his horse. And till
Yep.
today, I noticed that. And I was like, dude, that's the same image of the death dealer in his horse.
Yep. Yep. I don't know if this is true. I have to confirm it with Ralph's family. But I think Ralph initially wanted to use Death Dealer, and my grandpa was like, no, because he wanted to make something that was a collaboration between Ralph and Frazetta. So he wanted to make something new. So Dark Wolf was definitely inspiration from Death Dealer. But Dark Wolf is a mystery. But I will say Dark Wolf is much more my grandfather than Death Dealer or Conan is my grandfather. My grandfather really put in his energy into Dark Wolf, and the things that he talked about with Dark Wolf, I was like, Dark Wolf is Frank Frazetta. I mean, that's his like, it's his alter ego. He really made him like who his like the anti-hero of how he would want to be portrayed as like a badass character.
So I wanted to ask something about Dark Wolf because I always thought that that the character's name was Jaguar God, and so I'm wondering is it the same character? Was that a name that was thrown out there beforehand? Like, tell us a little bit about Jaguar God and Dark Wolf and
So Jaguar God came after Dark Wolf. Jaguar God is actually Glenn Danzig's character. So Danzig put that out, the series out. My grandfather illustrated the covers. But yeah, Jaguar God is Danzig. I really don't know much about the character, to be honest. I'd never read that series before. But I mean, they're all kind of like, derived from my grandfather's and early influences like from Hal Foster's like Tarzan, and you know, they all have kind of that essence of like this like badass masked hero, anti-hero, however you want to look at him, that's just like, you know, cutting throats and and saving the right people, killing, or you know, killing the bad people, sometimes killing the good people. They're all kind of the same, and I think derived just from, you know, from Frazetta, the essence of who Frank Frazetta was.
So
Yeah,
that was Danzig.
Glenn Danzig, cool.
Glenn Danzig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting
Misfits.
because you know, when you look at art, you look up in Google, you look up Dark Wolf and you look up Jaguar God, you get both.
They're
Yeah.
they're pretty
Like,
similar in like the style.
the
And
difference
everything.
with Jaguar God mainly is, I think, his skin tone and like possibly, you know, he has the Jaguar print on his
Yeah.
loincloth.
But but he has the mask and everything. And the
Right.
reason there would be even more confusion, which my grandpa did, he actually painted over the Jaguar God canvas, and I think he made it Dark Wolf. So even more confusing, there was
Okay.
one painting that was both Jaguar God and Dark Wolf at different times, because that's what he did. He painted over his oils. He didn't get a new canvas. Again, if I knew what he was doing, maybe, and I was back, if I could travel back in time, I would have got the man more canvas board, but no one seemed to do that. So he was just painting over paintings. And but I honestly, and if not being like humorous about it, I don't think he would have listened. He would have said, "No, I want to repaint this painting. That's what I want to do." And no one could tell him otherwise. That was the man he was.
John Fraser said Jaguar God is gonna be the
Chase
Chase variant.
Is the yeah, yeah.
The Chase
That's a
variant
good-
for
good
the
option,
action
like
figure of
Comic Con
Dark Wolf.
exclusive next year.
That's a Comic Con exclusive.
And we'll talk to Danzig about it. We'll get a Jaguar God going.
So you mentioned Tigra, also subtly as being the
Yes.
next figure, and I gotta ask, as a collector, and just because of the way things are, what Carlos is mentioning about how certain things are too risque or whatever nowadays, you don't want to insult anybody. How are you going to approach the fact that Tigra was practically naked in a negligee? You know, like is
Um,
that something that you're gonna are you gonna make a nude action figure with like a translucent robe or gown
I
or
would love that.
me
well, I
too.
mean, I think it would be cool if she could have multiple outfits. Now, I don't want to step on Joe or Eamon's toes right now because they're in the process of developing. But she will not be. No, we want her to be in households, and so she's not going to be a nude figure, but she is going to be a sexy figure, and we are not apologizing to anyone about that because that's the world of Frazetta. You have beauty in men, you have beauty in women, you have beauty in animals, beauty in trees. That's just the way Frazetta rolls out, and they're going to be exotic, beautiful looking action figures, both men and women. So that's no, we're not going to give her like a whole like a superhero costume and cover her body. No, we're going to give her bikini, and you're going to see all the curves, and she's going to look really good. Because you know what? If you got it, you flaunt it. That's my philosophy. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, why not? I mean, of
Listen,
course, people need to be respectful. It shouldn't always be about that. As a woman, you know, whistling and catcalling, like I'm half joking, but also at the same time, I've said this before, we're in nature, guys. If we don't have that going, humanity's going to stop. So we gotta keep some of the nature within us, and that means attractiveness and bodies and chemistry and everything
love that.
else.
And I'm all of that. Like, listen, I have this figure, for example, loose collector Dave Cardenas, right? He's making Red Sonja, and she looks hot,
Hot,
super hot. Look at
yeah,
it. That's it. And she make Vampirella
yeah.
with her like super skinny like swimsuit, and totally fine. People love it. You know, why not?
Yep. Yep. I mean, and that's so I love Dynamite. Dynamite keeps the females very sexy, the Vampirella and Red Sonja. And sure, they can have alternative outfits. That's fine. They can get dressed. That's not a problem. But also they can keep their original uniform and
My brand wants a panther as an accessory for Tigra.
Shatan Swift Killer. Yes, like that's her Panther's name, and he needs to definitely. We want to do it right. We want to give it where when like I said, when I was a Barbie girl, now playing with action figures, I understand like why you guys like love these so much, and it's like I want to have the accessories where it makes sense, where you get to be, you go into your zone as like a 10-year-old kid again, and you're like, this is so cool, and you have the Panther, and you have this, and you have that, and it just it doesn't, like I said, if we, as long as we have the support from the fans, we're going to make everything possible. It's
We need the wolves.
oh, the pack of wolves. Yeah.
No, it's definitely, the coolest thing is the fact that this is like the first foray into that action figure world for this brand, for this IP. Like we have Death Dealer figures and we have Conan figures, but this IP is something that people have been wanting for a long time. And it's like you said, you want to do it, you want to come out the gate giving people what they want to see. You don't want to change things to to like not displease certain people or whatever. You gotta make a product that is transcendent of the time and era that film came out.
Exactly.
We can't
And
change that.
it's Frazetta, and it's not going to be for everyone, and that's okay. But we have to keep it integral for Frazetta fans. We're not going to do a disservice to you guys who have been following your whole life and say, oh, you guys don't matter anymore. It's the new generation we want. Absolutely not. You Frazetta fans have been why the legacy is so big. It's the loyalty that you've shown and the love and the passion. So it always has to be, and you guys are always going to like what Frank liked. So we're going to do what Frank liked, and then we won't miss if we do that. And we even with merchandising and stuff, we have to grow. We have to take losses and say, oh, that wasn't very good. Try again, make it better. I mean, I want there to be something for everyone. But my grandpa's work was like such incredible quality that from everything from a mug to a T-shirt, it needs to be like the best T-shirt you've ever owned and the best mug you've ever owned, and that's just something we keep working towards, because it's like, yeah, we're gonna get some things wrong, but our passion's just gonna keep driving us to get everything like to the level of excellence, like Frazetta paintings, and that's the way it has to be. So everything is driven for the fans. And that's why I said, like, any feedback, we love it, because we just always want to make you guys happy first and foremost.
Thank you so much.
It's great to know that you guys have such high standards.
Totally.
I'll never be satisfied. It's my mother. My mother, my mother was the founder of Frazetta Girls, and she's kind of we work together with the museum and in Boca Grande, and we're starting to work together on some more endeavors now. And I thanked her for this yesterday, because she's not shy about telling me criticisms of anything. Like, she'll be like, "Oh, I like this mug, but you should have done it this way," or you did this, but like, I hate this series that you put out, or I hate this. And I'm like, I'm glad that she always puts that pressure on me, because it makes me be better. Like, my mother's approval is the approval I'm seeking, and it's like never good enough for her. So I thanked her for that. I go, good. Keep applying the pressure, because she's really a lot like my grandpa. It just has to be always a work, and we're never going to be, in our minds, we're never going to be good enough. So it's like you have this enormous thing that we're controlling now, and it's like the standard that we have to live up to. It's a lot of pressure, but that's good. We need pressure. We can't be comfortable, otherwise we will get stagnant.
It's like a bless, but it's a curse at the same time. Like,
yeah,
you need to live on the standards on that manners, and that's one of the questions that I want to ask you. Like, how everything start with the Frazetta Girls? How was like how everything started with you girls? Like, what was the idea?
Well, so I had just graduated from college. I was in a production coordinator job. I always wanted to be in a creative field. And my mom had been in a legal battle with her siblings, with one sibling, and they finally had settled it all. And this was a couple years after my grandfather had passed away. I was very, like I said, close to my grandfather, but as my grandfather, I never even thought of the business or the paintings, or I would have requested a painting if I had known, but I didn't know. So I have my little watercolors, and I'm acquiring some original art back, very little pieces, not oils, but I had no idea, and I never thought about it. So my mom approached me because I was kind of in this like transition period with work, and I was like, I just want more. And she's like, Sara, she's like, do you want to start a Frazetta business with me? I'm going to get these vintage posters. Rodriguez told me to get vintage posters that Grandma and Grandpa had made. I'm going to get some of them from my brother Billy, and we're going to make some. My mom came up with the Frazetta T-shirt, the logo, just the red, the red signature on the black shirt. And she's like, let's just go to Miami. And we went to a convention in Miami. It was our first comic convention ever that I'd ever stepped foot in. My mom had been to many when she was a little girl. So we went, and people saw, Rodriguez presents Frazetta, because Rodriguez at the time was really guiding us with everything. I mean, he made us this banner. He got us into the full sublimation shirts, the giclées that were signed and numbered with the black border. And he took it to this level of like class where I was like, oh, this is good. This is great merchandising. So that inspired me, where I was like, I think this is going to be something I want to get involved in. So we went out, we flew out to see Robert Rodriguez. He was having this big convention, and my grandpa's originals were there. And that was the moment I started meeting the famous people who I had been looking up to. And they were like looking back at me saying, do you know what your grandfather did for my life? And I'm like, no, tell me. I have no idea. Tell me everything. So it was that moment I started realizing, like, this is big. This is a gigantic legacy. Of course I'll do something. And then of course, we were doing conventions, and we were doing them very, very on a small scale, like just a little humble booth and doing some panels. And unfortunately, just the kids at the conventions, they didn't know who Frazetta was. And we'd go to these conventions, and I'd come back and I'm like, Mom, I can't even pay my rent this month. I have no money. Like, I'm going on the road. No one's supporting us out there. And I was working like 4 other jobs for many, many years, like doing social media management. And I really, I had been a believer in social media since it came out. I grew up on MySpace and Facebook and everything. And I was like, this is a really cool tool to build the brand because it's free. So why not? Let's pull back a little bit from the conventions because it's not really being received right now. That's okay. We just got to do more work. So we pulled back, and we really, we executed on the online front, and we said, we're going to, John Fraser. Yeah. Started from the bottom. Now we're here. Drake song. So we wanted to model it where it was like, we can build it. We can build a really solid e-commerce store. That was, again, Joe, who stepped in. My mom kind of stepped out because it wasn't a business. We weren't making any money. So she's like, well, you keep what you get. She's like, felt bad. Like, it's a charity. She's like, I have my original art. You keep your money. It's sad. Sell your T-shirts and, work your other jobs. But we just kept building and kept our head down, and we, put out stuff and saw what worked, what didn't work, customer service, like, building this business, social media. We have, I think, 405,000 followers now on Instagram, and that was all organic because we were like, no, we're not buying followers. This has to be organic, and it has to be built strategically. So it was just hours and hours and days and months of building and, connecting with people and putting out these like crazy like goals that we still do, where I'm like, we're going to get this collaboration and this collaboration. And I'll tell you something that's funny with the Dark Wolf figure. So for years, back in 2020, it started, I would start reaching out to people, and I'm like, if they could just write an article about what we're doing, and like these news sources, and no one cared. They're like, we sorry, we don't care. What, you want to pay us for an article? And I'm like, I don't have any money. Can you just write an article? They're like, no, that's not how it works. I'm like, okay. And I'm like reaching out to different people with PR and trying to figure out how it works. And Joe, who's very wise, he said, Sara, when you have something good enough, they're going to write about it. Okay. So that's the second step. You don't just get people writing about things. And I'm like, okay. So now all these years later, we have all this press now about the Dark Wolf figure. And I was like, you were right, Joe. I didn't ask anyone to write anything about this. They're just doing it because it's exciting. So it's been like this process. And I was finally able to leave my other jobs in 2019. So it's like, even with the name Frazetta, it's like you have this huge name. It doesn't just come to you. You have to work really hard at it. You have to have your side hustles, and you have to put in the sacrifice and go, I know this isn't going to be easy. And now it's really starting to pay off, where it's like, man, now it's all happening, and it's really cool to know how much stress and how much grind it's been taking, and I know it's going to get even harder now, and I'm it's like, it's okay. I like that. I like the challenge. I guess
Oh,
I guess that's the part of my grandfather that's in me.
I'm sure your grandpa's super proud of you.
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh,
Like,
Listen. Just like as I was telling you, like I'm a huge Masters of the Universe fan. I grew up with He-Man, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
for I can talk for everybody that is Masters of the Universe fan, and the He-Man fans are like huge all over the world, Germany, you name it. And I can tell you, every single one of them knows who's Frank Frazetta. Like every single one. When you told me you're gonna have like the place there in PowerCon, which PowerCon is pretty much the con made for He-Man fans, I was like,
I didn't
I'm
know that. Wow.
I'm all in. That's
it
why I
Yeah.
asked
originated.
you. That's what I asked you. Are you gonna be there? Because everybody there, everybody who's gonna be there knows your grandpa.
Oh
Everybody,
man, maybe I should book a ticket and come join Eamon. I don't know.
everybody. Trust me, everybody knows who's Frazetta. Everybody.
Yeah. That's so cool. That's so cool. I mean, it is, like I said, it surprises me still, like where people, even if they don't know him, they'll see the Death Dealer or Conan, and they'll be like, oh, I know that artist, and then I say, oh, it's Frazetta. They usually say like Fraziti or something like that, or Rosetta, and I'm like, no, it's okay, it doesn't matter as long as it's recognizable and it made an impact. And I just think, but it's just, it's so cool when people know the origins of things. Like, oh, this came before this, and we have to respect it. And he's the godfather of fantasy art. So hearing that's awesome.
Yeah,
No, yeah, I mean,
I'm
people
trained
like
to serve.
listen. I listen to Misfits. I'm a huge metal head,
Yeah,
so
Uh,
I'm
cool.
still going to metal shows, especially here in Florida, right? Like we have like I love death metal and all stuff. So all these artists, like I mean, Glenn Danzig, come on, like everybody knows Danzig,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
and I mean he's a huge fan, like and all these I, I don't know, like all these guys that I follow my whole life, like you said, like maybe people that you were fan of, they're fan of your grandpa. It's
Oh, well,
crazy as
this,
that.
the artist Cause. Cause is, I mean, a very well known artist and a legend. And I've been a fan of his for a really long time. And then I saw not too long ago that he had followed Frazetta Girls and had posted the Tashin book, and I was like, wow, even Cause is a huge fan. It's just like of the most unexpected people. When I'm like, I didn't. But it's like I think, like you said earlier, it just transcends like time, and it's the emotion in the art. It's like, even if you're not like a huge fantasy um, person of like just a fan in the fantasy genre of art, it's like you can still look at it and go, look, this is fine art. This is like a Renaissance art. It's masterful, and it just crosses all the barriers of genres and a type of person. It's like it's all people, and that's like the commonality of like, when there's great art, it brings everyone together, and that's what's so cool about Frazetta and any huge property that, Star Wars. It brings all kinds of people together, and they love it, and He-Man, and you can just appreciate it with everyone and go, wow, we have more in common than we think.
yeah, it's crazy because your grandfather's work influenced so many things: films, shows, other books, other
Movies,
artists.
everything.
It just, it's like his work was kind of like the blueprints for a lot of other people and what they've accomplished nowadays. And I wanted to kind of segue over to the toy again, because one thing that us collectors, we always kind of want to know is, what are the plans in terms of packaging? Like, are you gonna go more the route of like a retro blister card with like nice, uh, artwork from the film or from your grandpa's paintings, or are you gonna do more like a showcase kind of a window box where
Collectors friendly.
yeah, like I
Um,
think something
I think all of the above. He's doing like a mix of everything. I just saw the box today, and I want to wait for him to reveal it. And because I already probably am going to get in trouble for talking about Tikra, I'm like thinking about it, going, I hope he's not watching. um, and, but um,
Okay,
but
it's
the
cut.
it's no, and we're live. Oh well, but
live.
it's I don't think he's working. He's working at it right now. I keep looking over my shoulder. I'm like, he's gonna be like, so, no, the box is sick. It's like it's really beautiful. I mean, well, I guess I could say like I don't know the right words how to describe it, but yes, it's gonna have that like nostalgia feel, a window. And it's just it's he's taking it up to the next level. Like it'll come in a really cool bag. Like he's making it where when I get something that I really like, I like the packaging means so much to me. From the time when you open the box, you see like the if there's like what is it called,
the
an
accessory.
insert like
Yeah, like a
a
flap.
welcome letter, yeah, like just something where it's like personal, where you're like, oh my god, I got
Yeah,
like
you
a letter.
like this.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's yeah, like that. Exactly. so yeah, we're thinking of like every little detail, because it's like, well, like I said, when I get something like a box of chocolates, this brand that I don't even Volk something, whatever. It's this brand of chocolate that does these like artisan chocolates, and each one has like this like crazy like flavor palette, and all the ingredients are sourced really good. But it's like the moment you get the box, you see the logo, and you're like, that it's the box. You open it, you have the insert, you have the bag, you have the package. It's a whole experience, and that's what we haven't quite got there yet with like all the other merchandise, but we're going into that direction, and like this action figure is helping that, because like I said, it's about money, because if you don't have enough money, you can't really do that. But with when now that we're getting there, we're able to be like, okay, now what's our dream of like having the customer have this experience, having the fan have this reveal? Because I mean, so many of you guys too, it's like you go on live and you unpackage it, you do the unboxing, so it's really embarrassing if it's not right. Like that's terrifying to me. I'm like, oh God, please don't do the unboxings yet. Wait, give us a little bit more time. It's me packaging mostly too, so it's like if it's a bad job, it's my fault. I'm like, oh, I can't blame anyone. People were like, oh, this person did this, and I'm like, no, it was me. I'm sorry. We'll do
You're,
better.
you're
I
gonna
do my
package
real I
figures?
do my reels on my channel, on my IG, and every time I show the package first, boom,
Oh yeah,
right there.
put
Because
everybody.
like Jorge was telling me actually that he liked the way I do the little reviews on the toys, like the
Yeah,
unboxing, because it's super fast, right? It takes like 1 minute and a half, and I show everything people want to see. Like boom,
right.
I start with the box. So the box is like boom, wow, you know, like the boxes for the Dead Dealer and the Conan the Barbarian for Mezco was amazing.
Yeah,
Awesome.
they are.
So awesome. I did an unboxing. It was terrible, but I did an unboxing for the Conan, and I have it on my YouTube. But I didn't
I
have any
saw it.
production. I didn't have
I
any
saw it.
production. I on my Frazetta Fridays are coming back with production value now. I'm like, all right, it's time to also invest. So I had to do that. And I think I just had fun being stupid with, like, in his outfit and moving him around. And I need to get more action figures though. So because when I do an unboxing, I want to like be like role playing with the action figures.
Hey,
I'll leave
that's
it to you
good.
guys. You guys are the experts. I'm not going to like tread in my unknown territory again.
Talking about the museum, you have one here in Florida, correct?
So it's a like a more of like a pop-up museum. So
Okay.
the backstory of the museum, my grandparents opened one in East Stroudsburg, and it was in 1983. And the reason they opened a museum was because they had so many fans coming over, and they were like, maybe we don't want like strangers coming in our house. We don't know these people. It's kind of, the 70s were dying down. You're getting into the 80s. It's a little bit more dangerous. So my grandma's like, let's like get a space for the art. So they opened the museum in a downtown building, which is still occupied by a Frazetta. It's my uncle Billy. He owns the Frazetta costumes, and he might actually open his own museum in that location because the art was divided. So that location was open for I think 8 years. And then my grandparents discovered Boca Grande, Florida. And it's a 7-mile island down in Southwest Florida. It's between Sarasota and Fort Myers.
Yes.
And they bought a condo there. And they were like, oh my God, it's paradise. And they were like, let's just move down here full time. So they found this building in the middle of town. It was this really beautiful, artsy building. And my grandparents loved it so much. They were like, you know what? They called their son Billy, and they said, bring all the art down in a van. Bring all the art down, and we're opening the museum here. So they opened the Florida Museum in 1995, and my grandpa loved it. A lot of fans came within that year, and I was there. My parents, we moved down to Florida at that time, and then my grandpa had his massive stroke. So because we were on this like basically deserted island, and the nearest cities like Inglewood, Florida, there was really no health care available for like the problems he was having at the time. So they had to move back to Pennsylvania. So we ended up staying. It became like various things throughout the year. My mom had like a teddy bear shop, and she like sewed dolls and like made it that, and then made it like a home collectible store, a island shop, all kinds of shops. And then when my mom finally retired that, she was like, maybe we should open the museum again. And I said, yeah, let's reopen the Frazetta Museum. So it's her collection that she inherited. And, she sells some paintings here and there, but then she acquires some back. And she kind of does like what my grandparents did. They always sold artwork over the years. They'd sell the ones they didn't really like and then buy the ones that they wanted back. And that's what most collectors do, because that's what you have to do. If it was a perfect world, she could just buy them all and, have this giant space dedicated. But it's been really great. And it's open right now. It's usually open just February, the month of February. But I think my mom's going to do February and March this year. Fingers crossed. She says that, and then we get through February, and she's like, okay, I'm done, because we have such a good time, and obviously I love talking. So we have these 9-hour days, like with everyone just stays all day, and it's like a big party in the Frazetta Museum. So it's really rewarding, and it's appointment only, so we can make sure that we have enough time with everyone, and you leave feeling like family. At least that's how we feel. We feel like we made all new family members every time someone comes to visit.
Well, we're really close.
Carlos and
I'm making sure you guys come for sure. You're not getting out of it now.
I was telling Jordan, we're 2 hours away from there.
Yeah. Well, and I don't do like a lot of marketing for it, just because it's really based on my mom, like what she wants to do. So I'm like, I'm at the mercy of you, Mom. Whatever you want to do, you call the shots. And so, but right now she's feeling really good about it. She's like, well, keep doing it. She's been feeling really inspired. We get tears in our eyes when we see some of the fans come through, and how much it moves them to see an original, and seeing grown men just cry and go, I can't believe I'm seeing this right now. We have to keep doing it. We would be horrible people if we wouldn't do that and change people's lives.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to see the work up front, up close and personal. That's an amazing experience. I personally, I don't earn a living as an artist, but I am an artist, hopeful to learn a living as. But so as an artist and a toy collector, it's even has more significance, because it draws inspiration for illustrations or other projects that people want to work on. So yeah,
absolutely. Well, bring your sketch pad. We have artists that come in and just will sit there, and they're like, "All right, I'm getting the magic now. I'm downloading it." And my friend Brian LeBlanc, he drives from Mississippi every year, and he just sprawls out with his paints and everything, and just makes a day of it. And I'm like, good, feel inspired. Paint in the Frazetta Museum. Wow. So we wanted to like I said, we feel like you're coming in our house and paint in Frazetta's courtyard. And I do believe I have so much like of a spiritual side about me that everything is like energy, and you can feel like Frazetta's presence there, and it's really magical. So that's what I encourage people to do. Like, don't be shy about it. Of course, like we don't want you splattering paint anywhere. Like, you have to be careful. But it's we're not doing any. What's the paint where they do splashing? What's that called? What's that art called? We don't do that. Yeah,
Splatter.
the splatter. Yeah, we don't no
Splatter,
splatter paint, but drawing is encouraged. You have your pencil and some non-smelly oils, and you're welcome.
So is it safe to say that at PowerCon, aside from seeing the figure, we might actually see the packaging as well? Or is that just a
Mm,
prototype?
that's a good question. I don't know the answer to it. I
Might be a
don't know.
surprise. Might be a surprise.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know Iman
I should have
said
asked Joey.
that if the stars align, there might be some other stuff.
maybe
So
Sarah is gonna be there.
maybe, yeah,
Surprise, surprise.
I'm
you
gonna hop on a damn plane and get my butt there. I've been traveling like a lot because with COVID, I just you would none of us we were all just like sitting around like, are we ever gonna travel again? And this past June was the first time I got on a flight since COVID, and now it's like you just goes from nothing to like everything. So it's like a little overwhelming getting back into the rhythm of travel again. And the flights right now are, oh man, when you like arrive home after a connecting flight, you're like praying. You're like, I can't believe I'm home. And I'm like, when did this happen? I remember just being like 30 minutes delayed, and you're like, oh, that sucks. And now it's like if your flight's not canceled, you're singing praises of
It,
hallelujah.
it is crazy because I love to travel with my family. We love to travel a lot, like to have experience and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
yeah, now traveling is really, really like crazy.
it's
yeah.
it's ins- it's insane. I mean, I watched the whole terminal of Atlanta get canceled at 2 in the morning, and we were all like, what do we do? What do we need a guide. Someone
Yeah,
needs to tell us what to do here. But yeah, it's just unfortunate. Understaffed, underpaid, whole thing. But
yeah.
hopefully it will get better soon. Fingers crossed.
So
So
Sarah,
tell me, how was the sorry, Jorge, how was the experience on San Diego to you?
I mean, it was in my opinion. I heard that it wasn't. Can you guys still hear me?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, just had a headphone decide to die. So I thought it was a little less packed than when I went in 2019. I know because the actor strike, the writer strike, like they
Mhm.
basically canceled H Hall. But it was still a huge crowd, and I was actually really happy for the artists and comic creators because they did better than any year ever. I mean, I talked to a lot of artist friends, and they're like, "We killed it. We did an amazing job." And we didn't have a booth, so I can't gauge it because we just went out there for some panels and meetings. But all the artists said that, hey, this is what Comic Con used to be, and we're here to make money, and we don't want to. I know with how they feel of going to this convention and spending all week, and then they're at a loss and going, oh no. I mean, it's really tragic. So I don't know. My opinion is, I think that they need to do two conventions. They need to do one for Hollywood and one for comics, and keep it that way, just so the artists can freaking make a living. I mean, they don't get their fair cuts when it's in Hollywood anyways, and then you're going to come in and take more from them. That's kind of insane to me.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I know from going to a lot of previous Comic Cons, I used to cover them for press, and
Yeah.
it sucks the fun out of it because you're doing interviews, you're doing panels, covering panels, taking pictures, and you don't really get to take in the experience of the con. Like go to
Yeah.
Artist Alley and see your favorite artist actually do a sketch on the back of a backer board for you when you buy their comic and stuff like those kind of experiences. That's what Comic Con was about. That was the source,
Absolutely.
you know. But yeah, Sarah, it's been amazing talking to you, learning about the amazing grandpa that you had that you did not know was so amazing. It's incredible that you experienced the human grandpa versus the iconic, masterful artist that he was. Um,
Yeah.
you got to get more of that experience of family rather than the limelight and all the fame and stuff. So that's really amazing. We look forward to, you know, anything that's coming out from the Frazetta camp, whether it's film, animation, collectibles, books. You know, we're big diehard fans here, and I know the audience has really enjoyed, this conversation. It's really awesome, and
Oh.
definitely, hopefully, we'll see you at PowerCon next week.
Hey,
And
you know what? I might feel spontaneous and say, you know what? We'll just find a direct flight. I don't know. I gotta find the direct flights. Everyone,
Hey,
find direct flights. Do not take the chance.
I know good restaurants around the con.
Do you?
Yeah,
Okay, well, that's
really,
intriguing.
that area has good restaurants. I'm a foodie, so
Oh,
there's a place there like Asian fusion, delicious.
ooh, and a good
So
Asian fusion.
hey,
Man,
but
yeah, that's awesome. Thank you guys. You're awesome. This has been such a great conversation. Like, and thank you for letting me just. I get
no,
excited and I just start going and going and going. So thank you for being such great listeners, engaging and asking good questions. Like, I really appreciate you both.
thank
absolutely,
you
and
so much.
we just wanted to ask, aside from the Frazetta Girls website, where can we find you? Where can we follow you? What's new? What's going on with Sarah? Also, I know that you dabble a little bit in art yourself. So, where can we, see your art? Are you featured in any comics or anything like that?
So I'm actually putting out a series with Dynamite. It's called Vampirella Dead Flowers. I co-wrote it with Bob Freeman, and I'm doing some covers for it. The interior art's by Alberto Locatelli. It's beautiful. It's very it's basically a kind of like a True Blood meets Vampirella, because True Blood was like
Right.
one of my favorite series, and we did some homages to my grandpa in it, and it was just it's a really I love it. I really enjoyed working on it. I do dabble in art because my baby is Frazetta Girls, and that's what I nurture and care for and grow. But I like doing art so I can appreciate just how good the masters are, and that's really why I only started, because I was like, well, how hard could this be? And I'm like, oh boy, this is hard. This is insane. What did my grandpa do? This is crazy. So it really gave me that insight when I started. But you can follow me and watch my journey. I'm on like basically all social media at Sara Frazetta. And then I'm really mostly managing all the Frazetta Girls accounts. So find me there too. It's always going to be me or Joe. That's pretty much it. Sometimes Holly.
Awesome. So
Well,
thank
thank you
you
so much,
so much.
Sarah, for your time. This was an amazing experience. I
Oh.
mean, I'm really honored to have you here, like talking about everything Frazetta Girls are doing. Like it was a blast to have you here.
Oh, this was wonderful. Thank you guys. I'd love to. I'll be back next
We
with
don't want
the next figure. If you guys want me back, next figure, we'll do it again.
Hey, definitely, and hopefully, if we don't see you at PowerCon, we'll see you at the museum next year for sure.
hey,
Yes,
next
yes,
comics.
yes, yes. No, and if I do go to PowerCon, I will let you guys know, and I'll make a little like post about it, and because everyone knows what I'm doing from my Instagram stories. It's like, hour updates.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Thank you again.
All right,
Thank you
guys.
so
Thank you
much.
so much for joining us tonight. Have an awesome rest of your week, and we'll see you in the toy house. All right.